Hello everyone, welcome back to Filmcaps. Today's movie recap is covering a 2014 action thriller movie called RoboCop. So sit back, grab some popcorn and enjoy the recap. Patrick Novak, a popular TV host for the show, The Novak Element, begins the movie by addressing certain issues in the cities of America. On his show, he talks about how effective the new robotic police, aka robocops, are in preventing crime overseas. He talks with a general from the Pentagon, General Monroe, and asks for his opinion about the robocops. Monroe tells the audience of all the good things there are to know about the robocops. He then releases a feed from Tehran showing a female reporter named Kelly and a human robocop, Maddox, filming the robocops in action on the streets of Tehran. They all praise the valiant efforts the robocops were making toward preventing crime. What they didn't know is that a group of local suicide bombers is preparing to attack the robocops while on TV and paint a bad image of the AI machines into the world. When the time is right, Arash, the leader of the suicide bomber group, rallies his men and strikes the robocops. Things don't go well as they all cause explosions on the street right in front of the camera. The robocops react to the threat and take out Arash and his men before they do more harm to the citizens. Pat cuts the feeds to Tehran and continues his show, asking the citizens of America why they are too scared to use the robocops on the streets of America. He introduces two men of opposing sides, Raymond Sellers and Dreyfus, the former being the pioneer of the robocops and the other being against it, and ends his show. On a bright Monday morning, Detective Alex Murphy pays the chief of police of his district, Chief Karen Dean, a visit and updates her on a deadly case he's been on. He meets his two suspicious colleagues, Andre Daniels and John Lake, there and asks them to be excused. When he's alone with Karen, he tells her about his encounter with a dirty shipment of heavy-duty guns a low-level criminal named Jerry showed him. Alex says he interrogated Jerry to find who he's working for, and he mentions a man named Antoine Vallon. He also mentions that they found out that the guns are supposed to be within police custody and not out on the street. He says there may be a mole in the station they all don't know about. Following their revelation, Alex says he and his partner, Jack Lewis, traced Antoine to a diner and met him there. Unfortunately for them, they were already spooked. Antoine was tipped off right there, leaving Jack and Alex to fight as guards to escape certain death. While Antoine was able to escape being arrested, Alex and Jack weren't so lucky. Alex escaped with a non-fatal gunshot wound, but Lewis was shot and left in intensive care. Karen tells him to wait for backup next time instead of rushing in to play good cop bad cop. Elsewhere, Raymond Seller, entrepreneur and CEO of Omnicorp, the company producing the robocops, gets questioned by Senator Dreyfus in a debate on whether it's safe to allow robocops to operate on American soil. Raymond doesn't produce a reasonable response to why robocops should be allowed on the street, so the bill continues. He gets back to his company and has a meeting with his subordinates, Tom Pope and Liz Klein, to think of a way to legally put a machine on the streets of America. Their meeting is fruitful as Raymond finally decides to put a man inside a RoboCop suit so as to add some human element or feeling to the robots. The plan's brilliant, so Raymond gets to his old friend, Dr. Dennett Norton, popular biotechnologist and bioengineer who specializes in producing robotic limbs for disabled patients. He finds him attending to one of his patients and asks for a meeting. After hearing his offer, Norton initially refuses to give in to Raymond's plan, but with a little persuasion, he's in. Meanwhile, Andre and John, Alex's partner, stop by an alleyway to meet their business partner, the criminal, Antoine Vallon, to discuss the way forward. Alex, on the other hand, visits Lewis, who's still under treatment in the hospital, and known to him, a tracking device is attached to his car outside the hospital by a hobo. A few hours later, Norton, Raymond, and his team all vet potential candidates for their new human RoboCop. They check through a group of disabled police officers and find no one good enough for the job. By nightfall, Alex gets home to see his wife, Clara Murphy, and son, David. He tucks his little boy to bed and has his alone time with his wife. They discuss a bit about work and get right to pop each other's cherries. While at it, Alex's car alarm suddenly starts blaring off. When it becomes incessant, Alex gets downstairs to check it out. He gets to the car and opens the door. Unfortunately for him, the explosive the hobo installed earlier blows up and destroys Alex. A few days later, most of Alex's body is gone. Norton, Raymond, and the others all ask for Clara's permission to robotize the other parts of Alex's body. Desperate, Clara says yes. 3 months later, Alex hosts a celebration at his house with all his work colleagues present. He dances with his beautiful wife and kisses her. Turns out he's just dreaming. By this time, Alex's body has already been robotized with the only human parts remaining in his body being the brain, lungs, heart, face, and hands. Alex is brought back to reality for the first time since his accident. He figures out he's in Norton's high-end lab with Norton and his assistant, J. Kim, running tests on him. Norton releases Alex from his constraints and grants him access to move around. Alex gets out of his constraints and walks around in his robot suit. He's scared and anxious at the same time and demands they all take off the suit. He fights Norton and runs through the entire lab to find an exit. Norton allows him to roam freely in the building. Alex eventually finds an exit, busts out of the building, and jumps over the fence. Seeing as he could escape and get out of reach, Norton shuts down the suit before he gets too far. In the next scene, Alex is back in the lab and Norton wakes him up. Alex asks them to remove the suit and show him what's left of his human side. Norton does so and Alex understandably gets nervous after seeing his own organs beating live. He begs Norton to end him but Norton asks him to think about his wife and kid. Norton emotionally manipulates Alex into staying alive and joining their little test program. This works as Alex gets on a call with his wife and talks to her for the first time in months. Clara is so happy to see her husband and asks him how he feels. Alex tells her he's good and fine. When asked when he'd be back home, Alex says he'd be back there after Norton finishes running some tests on him. He ends the call shortly and returns to the lab. Kim cleanses Alex's blood and infuses nutrients into his system to keep him alive. After the test, they put him to sleep and call it a night. The next day, Maddox introduces Alex to a new set of advanced artillery weapons and assesses him if he is ready for combat. Alex gives him no reason to think otherwise. So, they all begin testing scenarios on the new Alex to deduce how he'd perform on the field. They pit him against a full RoboCop and Alex loses to it. After the simulations, Alex makes some internet searches about himself, Antione and some other keywords pertaining to his attempted murder case. The next day, Norton showcases the results of the scenario simulation to Raymond. He explains that while the full robot eliminated the assailants without any thoughts, Alex showed some human emotion and feeling before killing anyone. Raymond tells him to tweak Alex to be a little less emotional so he can sell better. Norton argues with him that Alex is a man in a machine but Raymond orders him to do better. Norton gets back to the lab and operates on Alex's brain. Meanwhile, Raymond speaks with his marketer, Tom, and tells him to make Alex's cop suit blacker so he can appear cooler to the people and terrifying to the criminals. Things happen fast and, a few days later, Raymond and his team are with Norton and his own team at an abandoned warehouse to spectate a real-life scenario training of the human RoboCop, Alex against a full army of Robocops. When the scenario is set, Norton explains the rules of the Battle Royale to Alex and gives him the go-ahead to start training. Alex fights his way through all 54 robots to get to his pseudo-enemy, Maddox, much to the surprise of Raymond and his team. Norton gives Raymond and his team a full explanation of what's going on and they are awed. Alex finishes his training and knocks down Maddox. That night, Alex is taken to his house to meet his family for the first time. He feels nervous seeing as he didn't know how Clara would take his transformation but Norton nudges him to go meet his family. Alex gets inside to meet a beautifully dressed Clara and his son, David, both waiting for the big man to come home. Clara sees her husband for the first time in months and hugs him softly. Alex walks himself in his robotic suit and talks with David. David receives his dad warmly and asks to spend some time with his dad. However, Alex tells him he can't always be there for him since he needs special handling. After his meeting with the family, Alex drives to meet Jack, his friend, who's now fully healed and ready to work. He asks Jack to join him on his hunt for Antoine Vallon, and Jack couldn't be happier to have his friend back on track. Alex nods in appreciation and gets back to the lab to sleep. The next day, everyone gathers in front of Omnicorp, all waiting to see the first human RoboCop be unveiled in front of them. In the meantime, Norton and Kim upload information of all pending cases and arrests to Alex's database. The other members of the police force are also present there. Suddenly, Alex overloads and has a seizure when his own crime scene, the day his car was bombed, is uploaded to his brain. Norton and the others fuss over what to do about this pressing situation. Seeing as they couldn't afford to have Alex break down in front of the press, Norton and Kim remove dopamine and all other emotional hormones from his brain. When Alex gets back to life, he's an emotionless machine. He makes an appearance to the audience and scans around the crowd for criminals. With everyone praising him, Alex finds a wanted criminal, Thomas King, hiding in the crowd. He steps into the crowd and arrests him right on the spot. Novak catches this scenario and talks about it on his show that night. He praises Alex's instincts to catch the terrible criminal and implores the masses to repeal the bill prohibiting robocops from entering the streets of America. In their next meeting, Norton, Raymond, and both their teams all wonder what could have gone earlier that day. They then decide that now that he's emotionless, they have to keep him away from his family so he becomes a full robot. Norton gets back to Clara and promises to give her husband back once they're done repairing him in the lab. The next day, Alex gets to his station and takes on the cases at the station. He interrupts a meeting and leaves immediately after telling them what he wants. Then, Alex hits the streets in the city looking for criminals to capture. He accesses CCTV feeds around the city while on his bike and locates a drug deal going on at present. He drives to the alleyway, busts them all, and interrogates one of the dealers on the location of John Brigg, a well-known drug producer's lab. The dealer confesses and Alex gets right to work. He destroys the lab and puts smiles on Norton and Raymond's faces as they all marvel over what Alex has become, the perfect human machine. Raymond calls on Maddox and asks him to keep an eye on Alex. That night, Pat Novak showcases the recent crime bust on the streets of Detroit on his show. He presents to the audience Raymond, CEO of Omnicorp. Raymond comes on the stage and talks a bit about the bill against robocops passed by Senator Dreyfus. Novak connects with Dreyfus on a video call and has both parties discuss with each other. When things become heated between the two, Novak cuts the connection and ends his show. The next day, Andre and John pay Vallon another visit. They both talk to him about Alex being a problem, but Vallon tells them not to worry. Back in the lab, Norton asks Liz to allow Clara to see her husband as she also has her rights. Liz tells him no and walks out on him. In the meantime, Clara stops Alex on his way to another crime bus and asks him to come home. Alex thinks a bit about her words and zooms off. However, this time, on his way, instead of getting to his next crime bust, Alex brings up CCTV footage of his son, David. He sees his son as emotionally distressed, stops his bike, and turns back. At the lab, Norton and Kim find out Alex is bypassing their settings and thinking of his family. Alex, on the other hand, rides back to his house and examines the exact spot his car exploded. He runs a series of scenario simulations and works on solving his murder. Norton and Kim both find out Alex's dopamine levels are coming back to normal. How is this possible? They all implore Alex to get back to the station, but Alex ignores their commands. Instead, he searches up one of Antoine's subordinates, Jerry White, tracks his location, and drives his power bike to his location. When he gets there, he pries information on Antoine's location out of Jerry's. Jerry tells him he only talks to Marcus, Antoine's driver, and Alex leaves him. He spends the majority of his night tracking Marcus's phone number until he gets there. Someone tips Antoine on the oncoming threat, so Antoine is prepared. He rallies up his men in the warehouse, puts on infrared goggles, and turns off the lights, waiting for Alex to appear in the dark. When Alex makes his appearance, everyone starts shooting. Alex defends himself and takes everyone down, including Antoine. Then, he gets to the station to challenge John and Andre for working with the criminals. Seeing as they were already made, John tries to shoot. However, Alex incapacitates him and leaves him to be arrested. He then gets to Karen and accuses her of working with Antoine. Turns out Karen was also working with Antoine. Alex holds her at gunpoint and urges her to confess. However, before she does, Alex is shut down from the lab by Maddox. Maddox communicates the updates to Raymond. Novak is back on his show that night and reports the recent corrupt police bust in the Detroit Police Department. He thanks Alex for his loyalty to justice and ends his show. The next day, Raymond and his team discuss and brainstorm how to get senators to vote against repealing Dreyfus's bill. They check their newsfeed and find out Clara had already been to press. According to her, Raymond and his team have denied her and David access to Alex for weeks. This doesn't sit well with Raymond, so they think of a way to keep Clara from Alex. Raymond says he'd handle the discussion. When it comes to what to do about Alex, everyone's at a standstill. They all fear Alex running his mouth and exposing corrupt politicians when he wakes. So, they take drastic measures and prepare to off him immediately when he wakes up. Norton hears this and visits Raymond. He shouts at Raymond and tells him this little charade has to stop. Raymond tells Norton that Alex would never be a normal man, so they have to take care of him while they still can. Now in between a rock and a hard place, Norton makes his demands and succumbs to Raymond's request. He makes his way to the lab and informs Kim of Raymond's plan. Kim tells him that security is there and Norton tells her to keep them away from Alex any way she can. In the meantime, the Dreyfus bill gets repealed and Raymond gives Maddox the go-ahead to shut Alex down for life. Liz gets to Clara and David to invite them to meet Raymond so he could explain things to them. Norton sneaks his way into the lab but gets caught. He quickly rushes to Alex and wakes him up. Alex wakes up just in time to take out the two security guards pursuing Norton. Then, he removes Alex's transponder and during their meet, Raymond lies to Clara that her husband had a psychotic breakdown and couldn't be functional anymore. Clara believes and walks out of the meeting with tears. Alex finds out what's going on and drives to Raymond's company to stop him. Maddox sees him on the way and immediately begins chasing him. Raymond is seen making a press recording to inform the masses about Alex's death. Before he gets anywhere with the recording, his guards walk in and advise him to follow them. Raymond, Clara, and David all get to the helipad on Omnicorp's roof and wait for the escape helicopter to arrive. In the meantime, Alex breaks into the company building and fights all the robots there. On the other side of the building, Jack arrives on site with a SWAT team and helps Alex escape the deadly robots. After escaping the robots, Alex finds Maddox and tries to shoot him. Unfortunately for him, Maddox was equipped with a red asset. Apparently, red assets are entities that are not to be engaged in any way by a RoboCop. Alex is shot by Maddox and is almost finished if not for Jack, who arrives in time and shoots down Maddox. Jack gets shot in the process, but thankfully, it's not a fatal wound. Alex gets to the roof and scares the escape helicopter away. He meets his family there with Raymond and demands they be freed. However, Raymond's also a red asset, so this means Alex can't engage him. Raymond plays on this and threatens to kill his family. This annoys Alex and he goes against his coding and risks shutting down just to kill Raymond. He successfully kills Raymond and gets to talk with his family before he finally shuts down. A few months later, Norton and his crew manage to repair Alex's suit. They test the new suit on him first and take him to meet his family. Alex puts a smile on his face when he finally gets with his son and wife yet again. In the final moments of the movie, Novak hosts his talk show. This time, he mentions that the RoboCop may be back on the streets much sooner than they'd imagined. However, he expresses his anger over the president keeping the Dreyfus bill up. He ends his show and movie by saying that America is and would always be the greatest country in the world. And that wraps it up. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel to get future recaps much faster. Also, drop your thoughts about the movie in the comment section.